It's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer, and today we have a Black Sheep Brewery showcase to show you. It's the Black Sheep core beers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them, from blonde ales to best bitters to some regular ales to some golden ales to then the big boy, the Riggwelter, which is a kind of a strong ale at 5.7% ABV. One of my favourites, this. I do like it. If I'm going to the supermarket, I often pick up the Riggwelter or the milk stout, which we also have here. The milk stout is really, really good. I recently did a video, top 10 stouts to compete with Guinness, because Guinness come up with this marketing story that they had a shortage of Guinness. And everybody should panic and panic buy Guinness, but it didn't quite work. So I showed 10 of the stouts, porters and dark ales that are probably better than Guinness. And the Black Sheep Milk Stout did remarkably well. I think it was like in the top 3 supermarket stouts. Really good beer. So we're going to kick things off with a... Now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking either blonde, 3.7% ABV, or their best bitter at 3.8% ABV. The best bitter, I'm wondering if it's kind of a nitro can. If it is, I probably should do the best bitter before the blonde. And my instinct is telling me to do the best bitter. So let's kick off with the best bitter then. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to pour them, give it a little bit of a taste, and then give it a rating, and then move on to the next one. So it's not a widget, it's not a nitro beer, which I'm probably glad at actually. This is probably the beer in Masham in Yorkshire, which you can probably buy the most of. It's probably there. Go to the local pub, it's on the bar. 3.7%, 3.8% ABV, staple best bitter, 2 finger, ivory coloured head, copper, quite clear looking, a little bit of haze going on, aroma. Yeah. Decent smelling best bitter. Exactly what you would expect when sticking your nose in a best bitter. Bit of malt, bit of biscuitiness. Let's dive in. Beautiful. Beautiful, kind of like ruby red, plum, fig and prune flavours from the hops. Bit of biscuit, bit of nuttiness, bit of spicy pepperiness on the back end. That's a really good best bitter. I tell you, since now Black Sheep have been taken over. Black Sheep have been taken over by, I think they unfortunately fell into administration around a year ago, early 2023. And they've been taken over by a company, and I tell you what, their beers since then, I think the remit from the company that bought them is just make decent beer, and they are. This is really decent. I go to Yorkshire every now and again. I've drove around the kind of Huddersfield area, and you drive out into the country a little bit, and you've got those kind of like Postman Pat type kind of like farm walls, there's dry stone walling everywhere, and it's just beautiful. The sun was out and it's beautiful to look at. Lovely countryside, the Yorkshire Dales. And you just kind of like, this is what you expect from a Yorkshire best bitter. Good quality bitter. I like that enough to give it, I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 for the Black Sheep best bitter. Let's move on to their blonde then. There's the bottle cap. 500ml bottle, 3.7% ABV. Now I'm reviewing this after the bitter because I'm presuming, I shouldn't be presumptuous, but I've got to make some kind of choice here, haven't I? I'm presuming that this might have a little bit more about it. For argument's sake, I wouldn't be starting with the Stout or the Riggwelter. You start with the lower ABV beers. That is pin bright. Good carbonation, one finger whitehead. Beautiful looking beer. Nice and clear. Yeah, zesty, hoppy, little grassy, little grainy. Let's get in. I prefer the best bitter, to be honest, on this. This one is, it's a lot hoppier. It's a lot hoppier, but it's quite thin. It's a blonde, it's probably supposed to be thin. It has that kind of slight buttery, it's not diacetyl, but it has that kind of buttery, malty. It kind of kills it for me a little bit. When you get that kind of like buttery taste in a beer, it kills it a bit for me. It's not diacetyl, it's close to diacetyl, but it's kind of like, it's like a Scotch toffee, buttery, biscuity flavour that, and then the hops come through on the back end, and they're kind of a little bit zesty and bitter, and for me it didn't quite work. Didn't quite work, this one. I prefer the best bitter. The best bitter is much more kind of like inviting. I think I could drink more of it, whereas this, I would probably enjoy a pint of it and then move on to something else. So for me, Black Sheep Blonde, 6 out of 10. 6 out of 10. Maybe they can tweak that. Maybe they can try and kind of like get rid of that butteriness that's in there. That kind of like, it's quite bland. It makes it quite bland because it dominates the flavour. Next beer, Black Sheep Respire Fresh Session IPA. Now this is something, I think this might be their gluten-free. I think this used to be like protecting this beautiful landscape is vital for our black. Every drop of Respire is officially carbon neutral and contributes to tree planting in the Yorkshire Dales. Okay, so it's one of those kind of like message beers, if you like. Another one, it just puts me off. It's just me personally. It's a good cause. I love trees. I love tree planting, and I plant enough trees myself. But as soon as a beer offers any kind of message, I don't know what it is with me. I just go, oh no, just give me my beer. When I'm buying a beer, I don't want to hear about a message about tree planting or anything else. Like, it's just how I am as a person. So it kind of put me off a little bit. I remember reviewing it first time round. I'm sure it was carbon neutral first time round. I'm sure it was one of those, like, they were offset. I think I was pretty sure they were planting a tree for every couple of pints or something. But I think they've changed that now. I just find it a bit like, I yawn a bit, you know, like, oh God, you know. I don't know what it is. Comment in the comments box if you think I'm ignorant. I don't know. Maybe it's just the fact that, like, you know, I just opened a Quality Street and it's wrapped in paper now, you know. It's just like everything's getting a bit silly, isn't it? Everything's getting a little bit silly these days. One finger ivory head, good levels of carbonation. Strawish coloured amber bitter, good carbonation. Let's get the aroma. Yeah, kind of hoppy. I remember I liked it. I remember I liked this beer. I remember like ranting about the carbon neutral thing and then actually liking the beer. Let's get in. Yeah, that's pretty decent. That is pretty decent. Nicely carbonated, easy drinking, slight malty grainy flavour, nice little bit of hop. It's much better than the blonde. This is a much better beer than the blonde. This is much more, I'd call it modern, even though IPAs and pale ales are not modern anymore, are they? They've been around for the best part of 2 decades in their current form. It's nice, it's just zesty and it's like grapefruity, nice bitterness on the back end. It's a pretty decent beer, that. Oh, rate it, better rate it. I'm going to give that a 9. I'm going to give that a 9 out of 10. I really like that. I think that's a really good beer. Next one then, probably Black Sheep's most iconic beer. It's the Black Sheep Ale. I've just reviewed a hoppy beer, so I'm going to have a couple of tastes of this just to clean my palate up a bit. But yeah, Black Sheep Ale, 4.4% ABV. This is probably the beer, well, they call it the iconic amber ale. Yeah, it's probably the beer that ...200 years of brewing experience. Now, the brewery's not 200 years old, but the Theakston family, you've all heard of Old Peculiar. They call it Black Sheep Brewery because one of the Theakston family members didn't quite agree on what was going on at Theakston's brewery. So they quite famously broke away from the family and opened their own brewery. And because they were the black sheep of the family by doing so, they called themselves Black Sheep Brewery. I mean, yeah, why not? They know what they're doing, don't they? They know how to run a business. They probably just wanted to modernise a little bit, and hence this is the kind of modernisation. One finger ivory coloured head. Now look at that. Look at that for a beer. Good carbonation, clear, amber, deeper amber coloured beer. I would say mahogany coloured beer. Let's get the aroma. Yeah, malty, biscuity, bready, nutty, chewy, toffee, hoppy. Some might call it twiggy, some might call it woody. Let's get in. Cheers. Beautiful. It very much, there's little bits of the blonde in here that I didn't like. There's little bits of the blonde, like that slight kind of toffee flavour coming through. But this beer backs it up because it's akin to what it's supposed to be. It's It's nutty. It's dark brown bread that's been toasted, and lots of layers of breadiness and biscuitiness, and there's a lovely bitterness on the back end. This is a beautiful beer. Oh, this really is. Black Sheep Ale. Yeah, that's good. That's you don't grow a business to the size Black Sheep without making cracking beer, and this is a real cracker. I think what happened was everybody understood that kind of like Leeds, Tetley's brewery, they got bought out by Heineken, and basically Heineken ruined Tetley's, didn't they? Literally ruined it. If you have a look at some of the old Fred Dibner stuff on YouTube, you can see him drinking a proper pint of Tetley's, and it looks more like this. It looks much more like this than what Tetley's looks like and tastes like today. So when Heineken ruined Tetley's, there had to be somebody who stepped in and kind of took that Tetley's market, and to some respects it was probably Black Sheep with their Black Sheep Ale. You know, you're rubbing your hands, aren't you? If you're a Yorkshire brewery and Heineken have bought Tetley's, which was one of the biggest players in world beer back in the day, certainly in the UK, and you see that they've made a right mess of it and they've ruined the beer, same as kind of like John Smith's and all those other beer, Newcastle Brown Ale, you know, they were dominating the market in the 80s, weren't they? I don't think what Heineken realised was when they ruined the brands, when they ruined those beers, that there would be somebody coming along behind it to pick up the pieces. And in a lot of respects, it's probably why Black Sheep are the size they got to, is because they went, hey, let's just make a Tetley's alternative that tastes much better than Tetley's does today. And this is probably it. This is probably it. I spent a bit more time on that beer, and that's only because I wanted to give it the respect it deserved. I'd love to try that on cask. I reckon on cask that is mind-blowing. It's really nice in the bottle, but cask, I bet that is some pint. I bet that is a decent pint of that. I bet it's fantastic. I'm going to give that a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 for Black Sheep Ale. Moving on. Holy Grail, Monty Python, 4.7% ABV. This is probably their funner aspect. You got the foot there, stamping down on the sheep. A British Pale Ale, tempered over burning witches. Bottle opener. I ran out of proper ale glasses. I've got a lager glass over there with a widget in the bottom, but I'm not going to use. I'm going to use this. It's probably a little bit better. It does have a widget, but I'm pretty sure it can take an ale. So it looks like none of these beers are bottle conditioned. None of these beers have that conditioning in the bottle. But again, it looks very similar, doesn't it, to the Black Sheep Ale. One finger whitehead, good levels of carbonation. Amberish, yeah, amber coloured beer, quite bright coloured amber coloured beer. Let's get the aroma. I think this beer was introduced just before the craft beer revolution really kicked in. I think if this beer was introduced 3 years later, it would be some kind of like really hoppy pale ale. It's a little bit of a stronger version of the Black Sheep Ale, to be honest, at 4.7% ABV. Let's get in. Cheers. But it's different. It's somehow a little bit lighter. It's somehow a little bit more refreshing. It somehow has a little bit more of a hoppy, berry-like flavour of maybe some dark plum and some prunes or something like that in it. It's the hops, it is. There's some biscuit malt there. It's quite hoppy. Pardon me. Yeah, it's definitely more it's got a little bit more carbonation, this one. It's a little bit more kind of like, they've used a different hop than the Black Sheep Ale. They've used a different malt. It's a little bit lighter in the mouthfeel. It's a little bit more kind of, I can imagine this being a really big seller, again, around Masham, around the Yorkshire area. Pretty good beer. It's, I think I prefer the Black Sheep Ale though. I do. I think the Black Sheep Ale, that ale is just solid. Absolutely solid. This is good. This is good. It's just, for me, not quite hitting the heights of the regular Black Sheep Ale. It's just it's something a little bit different. It's something a little bit more lighter and hoppier, if of course you like that thing. So I'm going to give that a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. Right, next beer. This is going to be Black Sheep Brewery's Golden Sheep. This is an all-day golden ale. Hey, this is my sort of beer. All day, eh? I've always been a bit of a day drinker. I prefer to drink in the day these days than I do the evenings. Just how it is. I like to stop drinking about 8 o'clock in the night. Maybe have a cup of tea or some juice or something, and then wake up with a fresh head. You just get a little bit older and wiser, don't you? I prefer kind of like lunchtime drinking. Lunchtime up until about 8 o'clock. I don't know, good 8 hours drinking still. But it gives you that 2 hours of in the evening where you can just like, a bit of water, a bit of squash, a little bit of cup of tea maybe. You wake up with a fresh head then. Yeah, all day golden ale. Right, 500ml bottle again. There's the bottle cap, dark brown bottle. Golden Sheep. Let's get it out into a glass, see what we get. The last two beers, I mean, I think they're going to be outstanding. I think they're going to be absolutely outstanding. So, Golden Ale. What can we say about Golden Ale? So, Golden Ale was a thing in the late 1990s. It was for the regional brewers. I think Fuller's had one. In some regards, they had a beer called Honeydew. Brains had SA Gold. Black Sheep had their Golden Sheep. So the idea behind Golden Ale, if I can cover it very quickly, is that it was a slight response to what was going on in America. I still don't think that the breweries quite understood what was going on in America the regional breweries in the UK, of course, and they had a little inkling that things were getting a little bit hoppier and people wanted something a bit lighter. Maybe it was a combination of the fact that lager was dominating the beer scene and they wanted to compete with lager by producing golden ale. So golden ale was a big thing in the late 1990s, early 2000s. One finger whitehead, good levels of carbonation, amber, golden coloured beer, quite clear aroma. Yeah, it's probably, this one is probably, it's a little bit similar to the Holy Grail, if I'm perfectly honest. It's quite sweet. It's quite sweet, this one. It's quite sweet. It's quite syrupy. I don't really like that, if I'm honest. It's a little bit too sweet. It's a little bready. There's a little bit of bitterness on the back end. No, that's not for me, that. That's the first beer I think I would drink from Black Sheep Brewery and go, no, I would definitely not drink that one again. Too sweet, too cloyny. 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10. Right, on to the Riggwelter. See, the L and the T, or the T is a V when you pronounce it. You pronounce it with a V. I think it's a German word. A strong dark ale. Now this you can buy in many of the supermarkets, Tesco's, Morrison's. I like this. I used to like the, if I wanted some strong beers, you know, in the supermarkets they do like a deal, like a 4 for 3 or something. I would buy a bottle of this. I'd buy a bottle of Old Thumper, which was, who brewed Old Thumper? The Hampshire Brewery. Oh, blimey, I've forgotten. Oh, Old Thumper. Anyway, I'd buy a bottle of this. I'd buy a bottle of beer called, it used to be called like Suffolk Strong, and it was Green King. You know when sometimes you're in the mood for a few strong beers? So it used to be Green King Suffolk Strong in a 500ml bottle. That was good. They've rebranded that now. It's got a bull on the front and it's in a 330ml bottle by Green King. I bought a bottle of Old Thumper. Ringwood Brewery's Old Thumper. I'd buy a bottle of Riggwelter. That was 3. And I'd buy the 4th one would be King Goblin. Probably a King Goblin by Witchwood Brewery. And I drink those 4 beers. They'd all taste slightly different. And then the next thing you know is the next day. You'll wake up in the morning. One of those like evenings. This is good. 1 finger, ivory coloured head. Dark looking beer, this. Good. Deep mahogany coloured beer. Quite clear. Good carbonation. Let's get the aroma. Oh, yes. Roasty and toasty, some roasted malt used in this beer. It's like a dark mild. Strong, dark mild. It smells fantastic. There's touches of vanilla, biscuits, nutty breadiness coming through. Slight dark berry, hoppy. Oh, it's good. Let's get the taste. Cheers. Oh yeah, that is really good. It's exactly the same as how I remember it. It's just good. It's just deep and dark and bready and it almost, I tell you what, that's not far off Augustiner Dunkel. I reviewed Augustiner Dunkel recently. That's not far away. It's a bit more treacly, it's a bit more kind of deep and licorice like. But it's got that kind of Dunkel, that German Dunkel flavour to it. Yeah. It's good, it's really good. Oh, good creamy rich mouthfeel. Touch of sweetness, lots of bitterness on the back end. Be prepared for a ton of bitterness on the back end. It's bready, it's nutty, it's biscuity, there's licorice flavours coming through. It's plum, it's fig, it's prune, it's got good drinkability, but it's creamy and rich. It's nicely carbonated. This is brilliant. I remember drinking Augustiner Dunkel on the train recently, about a couple of months ago now, and it was just... That's really good. That's a really good beer. I think Black Sheep did a brewery that, when you put all of their beers together, okay, we got one to go. We got the Milk Stout, which I know is good. I've already reviewed it. But when you put all of these beers together, that's a strong lineup. That's a strong lineup. Okay, the Golden Sheep may not be for me. The Blonde may not be for me. But that's not to say that it won't be for other people. Other people might love that. It might be their favourite beer. Who am I? You know, it's just a case of like, I'm giving you my own kind of like personal opinions on each beer. But the Riggwelter, really good. It's a 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 for the Riggwelter. Okay, last beer is the Black Sheep Milk Stout. Now, I've already said that this beer, when I put it up with 10 different stouts, this competed really, really well. Really, really well. This was like top 3 of the supermarket stouts that are probably better than Guinness. Some of the beers that I reviewed, they were, you could tell they had that kind of like brewing syrups in it. Those are I find them quite awful actually. Those awful glucose syrup sweetness that you find in some beers. But this was one of those pure stouts. It was one of those, like, you could tell there's a lot of malt in the beer. There's a lot of kind of roastiness and toastiness in the beer. It's a milk stout, so I can't quite remember. It might have a little bit of lactose in it. Let's get in. Let's 1 to 2 finger tan coloured head, jet black beer in the glass. Aroma. Yeah, it's just phenomenal. Phenomenal. It's just lots of burnt roasted malt aromas. Nuttiness, biscuitiness, breadiness, coffee, chocolate, bitter dark chocolate, roasted coffee, touch of caramel. Phenomenal. Phenomenal. Cheers. Really good. Really, really good. There is a touch of sweetness. There probably is a little bit of glucose in there. You can tell it's you can taste it. A little bit of that kind of glucose is in the beer. But other than that, it's all malt, it's roasty, it's toasty, there's some biscuit flavours coming through, bit of dark chocolate, coffee, caramel flavours. It's a really good stout. Creamy, rich. Yeah, top stuff. Top stuff. I mean, I say top stuff because I'm talking to you. I'm presuming, and again, this is presumption. Most of my market these days is probably Germany, the UK, because I review a lot of German, UK, Czech beers. I can't really get too much American stuff these days, which breaks me. I love it. I love American beer. You can't get the old Flying Dog and all those great beers anymore. They don't come to the UK anymore, and if they can't come to the UK, I can't buy them. So I am limited to like German, Czech, UK. Thankfully, that limitation is good because we do brew great beer in Europe, Britain, Czech, Germany. We still brew some great beer. Belgium, of course, and this is one of them. The availability of this is the fact that you can walk in any Morrison store in the UK and buy a bottle of Black Sheep Milk Stout. And I'm telling you, if you put this up against a can of Guinness, this blows Guinness out of the water. That marketing trick by Guinness to say, oh, we've got a supply issues. Oh no, we're gonna have to like and they were trying to I think it was on Lad Bible or something what to do if you can't get your Guinness, and it's like, oh god, just stop it. They're trying to market this supply issues of Guinness. I don't care. I couldn't care less if I never seen a can of Guinness again, ever again. It's a marketing company. It's barely a brewery. It's one big marketing machine. Go and buy a bottle of Black Sheep Milk Stout from Morrison's. We're all close to a Morrison's. Pretty sure we are. Rate it. Boo-hoo. Nobody can find Guinness. So what? Black Sheep Milk Stout. Really good milk stout. Available in a lot of supermarkets in the UK. 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10 from Real Ale Craft Beer. That's a look at... Now, they do have an Imperial Stout. Black Sheep. Which I would have liked to have included in this. They've got some Christmas beers as well. There's a couple of Christmas beers here. I'm not going to stick them in because they're kind of seasonal stuff. But they have like their Snowflake and their Blitzen. They also have an Imperial Stout, which is lovely. I'm not sure if that's available all year round. But yeah, here are the beers that are available all year round, and I think it's a fascinating selection of beers. And yeah, thanks for watching. Please put your comments in the comments box, subscribe to our daily beer and food reviews, give us a big fat thumbs up. Boom, cheers.